Welcome to the Bougie Black Brother Network. Good evening and welcome to Urban Lifestyle Cafe. I'm Michael, your bougie black brother, and I'm here with my wife and co-host, Alicia.
Hello.
And we had made a decision to sit down and see a couple of Netflix released TV movies and TV shows. So almost at the same time, they came out with Cloverfield Paradox. And the one that we're talking about right now, which is called Altered Carbon. So this is a book. It was based on a book, and I think it's a 3-part book. And this is the first book of a 3-part series. So, really interesting. It gave a look of Blade Runner. So when you looked at it, did you get that feel?
Yes.
So it gave like a dark Blade Runner feel, basically almost like they were androids or things in that manner. But let me give you the quick synopsis on what the movie is about, or the series is about. More than 300 years in the future, society has been transformed by new technology, leading to human bodies being interchangeable and death no longer being permanent. Takeshi Kovacs is the only surviving soldier of a group of elite interstellar warriors who were defeated in an uprising against the New World Order. His mind imprisoned for centuries until impossibly wealthy businessman Laurens Bancroft offers him the chance to live again. Kovacs will do something for Bancroft through he wants to be resurrected. So, but he wants him to solve a murder. And the murder is him, which is crazy. And I was like, I don't get that. But once you start seeing the story, you understand that how you can be murdered, but you're asking him to solve his murder. So, Altered Carbon is based on a cyberpunk novel by Richard K. Morgan of the same name. So, sounds a little off, but let me give you my little summary. My little summary is people found out that they don't have to die, and their existence is put into something called stacks. So it's almost like a computer chip or a hard drive that can be pulled out of your body and placed into any body you want, whether it's a man being in a woman's body, a woman being in a child's body, a man being in whatever. And they're put into a new sleeve, which is like a crazy type of analogy. You slide into a new sleeve. And that's what they call the bodies. And they had these elite soldiers were actually trying to regulate what was going on in the universe, basically, of people doing illegal things with their stacks and killing people and actually imprisoning different people. And what they do is they hold their stacks or they crush their stacks and they'll never be able to exist anymore. And then they're going against the religious right, who says you should be pure. You should just die. You should not be able to live forever. So really, really interesting. So,
okay, because
what you got?
I was going to say it this way. So, like you said, the chip, where does it go?
Back of your neck.
Okay. It looks like a deodorizer. The story was just interesting, and you didn't know if they were human or real, or was they the chip?
So part of that was your existence drives your brain. So either the chip is your soul and your brain is something totally different, but most hard drives or chips is the brain. So I guess it was easy to slide it into your neck than in the top of your damn head.
Well, the interesting thing you said was soul, because it was hard to. They were talking about so many different things about if it was a soul. Some people were saying it's your soul. Some people were saying it's your brain. And then you have people who were with the chip. It just had, it was just different people. If you had to keep the chip to be implanted in somebody else.
Yeah. So if your body,
because they said that if you shot in the head, you're gone.
no, if you was shot in your stack, not your head, your stack. Because the stack was embedded in your top of your spine, in between your brain and your spine, right there where your neck is. So if you shot in your stack, you're done because your stack is just ruined. Not your brain, because I thought it was your brain too. Until somebody got shot in the head, and then it was like, yeah, but we recovered their stack,
right?
And so I was like, oh shit, okay, it's the stack.
Yeah, because you seen bowls of them.
Yeah, so there was a portion when they killed a bunch of people, but they had like a bowl full of stacks that they pulled out of them. It was like almost like a seashell, the half of a seashell, and it was just laid out, but it had like a glow to it.
So how the one thing is that how did the souls or of the person get into the stacks?
So they never talked about how this process began.
Right.
What we found out is one of the character who was part of the rebels, she was replaced and put into a new body, but she was the one who invented it. So when she realized when she invented it, it was the wrong thing, she rebelled against it to say it's not going to happen anymore.
Right.
Because people actually backed themselves up. Just in case the rich back themselves up, just in case something happened to their stack, they can download it into a new stack.
Right.
So it was just crazy.
No, but it was that story. That whole series was amazing. The story, the way they did it, because it really is like it was like, well, this is cool as hell. So you would never die.
So back it up. How do you see it as being amazing?
Because it was something totally okay. So. We're into sci-fi. We love sci-fi. And then for them to come up with this whole different idea, like you said, this is a book. This was great. I mean, it was great idea. It's like, okay, so, everybody's always talking about, to live internally. I mean, what is it? Internal? It's not internally. It's
Yeah, internally.
Eternally,
Eternal.
okay. Internal, right. And so you think about it, there's another way for you not to die by backing up everything, your soul, your memory, everything into a chip. Back, like you said, backing it up like in a hard drive, and then be able to put it into another body, and it works.
And the bodies are just that's why they call them sleeve, because you just slide into it. And I was like, that's pretty crude being called a sleeve, but they can slide into anybody. There was a person that one of the cops, one of the characters was
female character.
The female
talking about Christian Ortega.
So her grandmother died, but she kept her stack. So every year she would put her stack into somebody else and visit the family and go from there, and then pull a stack out and replace it with the person who was actually there. And I'm like, wait a minute. So all they're doing is using a body. That's all it is.
Right.
They're just using a body. But the rich people, which was, and without getting, we ain't even get into the story yet, but the concept of the show is just totally freaking amazing. The rich people had clones.
Yes, they
so
did.
they always stayed in the same looking body.
Right.
As opposed to jumping into some other body.
Yeah.
So they had like a 3D printer that printed out their body.
Yes, and that was cool as hell.
I was like, damn.
Yeah, that was cool as hell to see that, because 3D printers are now becoming real famous.
Yeah.
And just imagine I could just see it even happening now. They're working on it. Imagine them that they're creating this opportunity for you to make yourself as a 3D body. But but like you said, it was just amazing how you was like the rich people was able to do that, and then just because they were like one of the rich ladies, she had like 2 or 3 different versions of herself.
Yeah, so what she did was she kept like spare bodies around. And one of her daughters used her mother's body. And I was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
And it was because she wanted to go around and just have fun like her mother. And they wouldn't know, but she just used the body just to travel around and be her mother. And I'm like, how fucking crazy is that?
But that was, I mean, that's something that's, like I said, it was so cool just to have that little chip. You know what I'm saying? And just to carry, I mean, they carry it around with them, you know?
So they don't carry it around. It's in their neck. They're not carrying it.
No. There was people carrying them around with
so
them.
they was only carrying with them because they was going to put them in a new sleeve. So it wasn't like, oh, I'm just carrying it around just for the hell of it. Like Ortega had her grandmother's chip because her mother and her family were really religious. So they didn't believe in it. But she's like, my grandmother still exists and I want to spend time with her.
But see, didn't her mother have one too?
No.
Her mother didn't have a chip when they killed her?
No.
Okay.
So they were natural. They were
See, that's what I was like. That's what I said. That's what I was trying to say. Okay, well, they're human, and then they have the ones who had this.
So the people with the stacks, are they not human?
They are, but it has a stack in them. But it changed the
so
way
what makes you a human then?
Yeah.
See, so that was the other thing,
Yeah.
the whole
Yeah.
concept of this movie too.
Yeah.
Because the main character, what's his name? Takeshi Kovacs. He played, it was an Asian guy, which was fantastic. Kind of weird though. So even though, let me go back real quick. I love the whole concept though. Throughout the movie, it was just so amazing stuff. But the story kind of threw me off.
It kind of did. It did.
Because the Asian guy, Takeshi Kovacs, he was put into an ex-cop's body.
Right.
Which was a white guy.
Right. Who was being accused of something.
Being accused of doing something that he wasn't even aware of.
Right.
Now, his partner, which was Ortega, she knew what it was, but she never told him. So she was keeping her eye on him, trying to figure out what the hell is this going on.
Right.
He's in the body of and that was her boyfriend too, and at the same time.
So really, let's go back to the beginning. The story is really about Takeshi trying to solve the murder of the very rich person, which Takeshi was also another person that his partner, who they were lovers, right, for them to solve the murder. So it just was like that to me was, like you said, a lot, because you kind of like, okay, Takeshi, then you really didn't Takeshi, but you didn't know the guy's name, who was the body he was in.
Yeah, you did. They said it afterwards. Once he found out that was her partner, then that's what she was called. I think it was Krill or whatever.
Yeah, because I'm trying to see what.
So he was the true guy was Takeshi, but
right.
I think his name was Krill or whatever. They don't really say it here, so
no, they don't.
That's part of the problem,
right?
But so it was confusing because it gave you a lot. The one thing that I didn't like was the guy who played Takeshi and the other guy. His personality didn't act like that. When they showed him as the Asian guy, his personality was different than when he was in the white man's body. I didn't see any similarities. You follow what I'm saying?
Right.
So that kind of like, y'all didn't do a good job transforming him into and getting him to act like the Asian guy, because his personality was a little more laid back than the white cop guy.
Yeah, he was, because the cop guy was like really like
yeah, kind of like bold and whatever.
Yeah, I'm gonna kick your ass. Like, I mean, that's what it seemed like with him.
Takeshi was really kind of
Yeah.
warm, and
Yeah. Yeah.
he was a badass, but he really wasn't like.
Yeah, he was very emotional.
Yeah.
Very, he dealing with the fact he had a sister who was fucking crazy.
Yeah, she was crazy as hell.
I mean, she was like in love with her own brother.
This movie is, I mean, this series is really complicated. There's so much about this series that you can go back and forth. And the reason why you can go back and forth is because they led you down one way, then they started another story.
Yeah, they did.
To go backwards.
You're right about that.
Then you go forward again, and then you find out, wait a minute, the person who he is somebody who's dealing with something that occurred with the rich people.
Yeah,
and you were like, what the fuck?
That's what I was saying. It's like, okay, you got him, but he said, okay, he's helping him, but then, all right, so now that he's helping him try to murder, but then you found out, okay, then they after him for something else, and then he's like,
and so other people was trying to kill him because he was part of, and they was like, who was trying to kill him?
Then the guy in the hotel, that computerized.
Oh, so the guy in the hotel, I loved him.
Yeah. Then you had the black guy who was trying to find his daughter, who was in another virtual world.
His name was Poe.
Yeah.
Because he was in the hotel was called the Raven, so he was Edgar Allan Poe.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
they called him Poe, but he was a virtual person.
Yes.
But he was just so. It's so much going on in this show, and it was like 10 episodes. It's full of stuff. You actually can go back and pick up some things that you probably missed because they threw so much into these 10 episodes that it wasn't enough. You actually needed to spread it out just a little more because it was so tight. It was so tight the way they did things, but that it was bad.
The story, the concept was excellent.
Oh, it was fantastic.
I loved the way they came up, but like you said, the story is a little choppy. It was all over the place.
Because it was so much.
Yeah.
You got it, but it was just so much so fast.
Yeah.
So one of the other things was the virtual reality torture.
Yes.
So they would kill them in virtual reality and then bring them back alive and torture them again. And it was in a virtual place. Mm-hmm. And when Takeshi was with this group, the rebels, she was teaching them that just because you're in a virtual reality, it's not their virtual reality. It's virtual reality. You can control it. Don't let them control it. You have to wait until you can be able to battle out of the virtual reality. Because just because you're there, your mind has to understand that you're there.
Right.
And it was just so cool because it was kind of like, it's kind of obvious. If you're in a virtual reality, they can't do anything to you if you don't let them.
Right.
Because you're in a virtual reality. And they had that aspect. And then back to your point, there was one of the programmers that he met. It was a black dude. And he had his daughter's stack. But she went crazy because of what these rich people did to her. But you don't know that because you have to wait a couple of episodes to find out
because
what the hell was going on there.
Yes, and then his wife came back as a man.
But his wife came back as a goddamn man.
Yeah.
But she was a programmer and went from that. So, but she was in a virtual reality, and the way she combated and got her mind back right was by being violent. So she acted out with violence in order to gain her strength back from what they took from her.
Yeah,
but it was all in a virtual reality.
Yeah, it was, and like I said, it was so cool. The story, the concept, I really loved how they did it. You know, I love sci-fi movies that way.
Yeah,
because
what I mean?
It actually said, okay, so you became this point where you came with creators like, okay, well, we can't, store you in ice and bring you back to life and be this person again, but we can store your stuff in a chip. Yeah. That you can put into your body.
But you're gonna have to get another body.
Right.
So from the beginning, when the main guy came back, there was another couple, and everybody was coming back after being revived, and somebody came back as an old lady. They said, "But this is my daughter that died." They was like, "Sorry, this is the only body you can afford," and they had to pay for another sleeve.
Yes.
And it was like they only could afford an old lady's body. Mm-hmm. I'm like, God damn.
Yes.
So it was so interesting how everyone had access to sleeves, but the rich control that factor because they remain who they were.
Another thing was that when the lead person in the movie, when he had to saved the young police officer's life. And it's like, how they was upgrading you can get an arm or you can get a heart.
Oh yeah. They
That
was
shit
trying to
was cool.
upsell him.
Yeah.
She was like, "Yep, she'll die, but we can replace the arm."
So how did he pay?
So he still had the account from the rich guy that he was working for. So the rich guy had an unlimited account. He said, "Long as I'm gonna pay whatever you need, as long as you find out who my killer is." And it was just crazy. And he actually killed himself.
How did he pay though? Remember how he paid? Was it blood or was it
his DNA?
That's right. That's what it was. His DNA.
it was his DNA. So everything was associated to his DNA.
Yeah, that's how they pay for everything.
Yeah, everything is based off your DNA, your
that
your
was cool as hell
like
too.
That. But that's who you are. So because think about it, now if you're placed in a database with your DNA, all we need is to validate it. That's your DNA.
That's true.
Your blood, your saliva, anything like that.
Yeah.
And there you go, and it goes from that. So, but this story starts with Takeshi and his daughter being abused by their father physically, and his mother and their mother being abused, and he kills the mother. The father kills the mother. So he comes back and he's attempting to kill his sister, and he kills his father, and they separate the two. But they told him, instead of being in jail, you can be in our elite fighting force. And he said, "But what about my sister? Oh, she's gonna go to a good family." He's like, "How do I know that?" He said, "I guaranteed you. I promise you that's the way it's going to be." And what comes out of that is they sold her to the Yakuza, and she became an assassin for them. And it was kind of like, wow, that's pretty crazy. So as they were both working on different sides of the law, they find each other when they went to some kind of mission, and he sees her. He don't realize that's his sister, and I think she wore the necklace, right?
Yes.
That they had when they was children.
Yes. He said, "Where you get that necklace from?"
I think she said, "This is my mother's," or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so they escape and go away and wind up joining forces with Krill Chris, with the rebels and everything. So again, this story had so many storylines. They bled together, but it's hard to explain because they don't go totally and explain one thing. They tell you some of it, and then they go back to another story, and then another episode starts, and then they start it back up again, and then they stop it, and then the next episode they go back and explain more. So it wasn't chronological. It never just totally explained one thing and then went to the next thing.
Right.
They just kept giving you a little bit of it, so you had to see the next one to fill in. Wait a minute. So what was that about? So the other one thing, technology-wise, which was really fucking crazy, and they said it was illegal and they don't supposed to do it, they called it double sleeve. So the double sleeve was your stack actually existing in two different bodies.
That's okay. I remember.
I was
that.
like, what the fuck?
I remember.
So
that.
they have the same existence, but they actually working separately, but the exact same memories at that point, but then they went two different directions.
Right.
I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it was interesting because it was just so
much technology.
I mean, it was like, I would have to, like I told you, it was like, okay, are you gonna watch it? I said, I'm watching this from the beginning because it was just like there were just certain things I was missing that I wanted to make sure I was connected it up right. But even so, like you said, I would have to watch it again.
Yep.
Because there just was certain things that, don't get me wrong, it was a very good show.
It was very good. It was confusing at times, but it was so good. The conceptual idea was amazing.
Yeah.
And a lot of the acting was good in there too. And it's just, I think the direction in some of the shows threw you off.
Right.
Because they was different directors.
Right.
So some of the way they directed some of the episodes, it was kind of like, what the fuck? And then later on you get it because they kind of brought that in, you know. So one of the controversies was Once again, they said they whitewashed it. The guy, he was in a white man's body, but he was Asian, so why did he have to be in a white? He said that's what the book had. And then they was like, it was an excessive amount of nudity in it, which it was. There's a lot of fucking nudity in it. And they had this one scene with his sister that she was fighting with a sword naked and shit. And the woman who directed, because I read it, the woman who directed said all the men out of the room. And then they had to get body doubles to come out and play her. But they all had to have the same body type, features and everything. And they all had to train on how to fight with a sword.
That's cool.
I was like, God damn, that's a lot.
Right.
For just the fucking show and everything.
Right.
So, but they were really concerned with, hey, look, you know, they had people of color all through this. So what are you talking about? They tried to keep it as close to the book as possible. They said, if you want to criticize anything, why don't you look at Game of Thrones? There's no Asians inside of that show at all.
Yeah,
and I was like,
yeah, you're right about that. She called them out.
It's like, okay. But so this show is kind of confusing to kind of explain because it was too many aspects going on. Well, it was just so many. The corrupt lawyer, the corrupt police chief.
Yeah.
Her father got killed by somebody. They never really explained it thoroughly. They kind of was explaining it. I may have nodded out because some parts in there they was just started talking too goddamn much. So I really didn't know about that. But it was just so many storylines that
in the 10 episodes, just a lot going on.
You see what I'm saying? So to me, they could have got 10 episodes and not finish it and go into the next series. And I would have been fine because I would have at least been able to understand a lot more. Because as soon as his sister went in, the whole storyline changed.
I know.
It changed quickly.
Yeah, you noticed that.
So then you had to keep up with what she was doing. And she was manipulating everything.
Yeah. At the end, just what you found out.
She was she was manipulating from the beginning to find him.
Yep.
And I'm like, damn.
Yeah,
okay.
she's psychotic or something.
Yeah, she was psychotic.
Because she was like, she was like deeply in love with her brother. I'm waiting for them to say it was like she almost like she was like wanted to marry him kind of way.
Yeah, she was bonded to him. She wanted to because she only wanted to be with him.
Yes.
That's it. She was like, no one else. You will never leave me.
Yeah.
So she was very obsessive in that way.
Yeah, she would kill the other women.
Yeah, she would kill everybody for his love. For his love just to be with her.
Yes.
And that was it.
Yes.
So but yeah, this was a extraordinary series. So it may not come back on. They said based on the lead character said that he's not coming back. But based on the book, they said Takeshi actually goes into another sleeve. So it may be another person anyway.
Yeah.
So you just don't know. But I think the people were saying they liked him as the main character, so they probably they wanted to kind of linger on with him.
Right.
But they said in some of the other characters may come back, they may not. You never know. So, and it cost a lot of goddamn money.
You could imagine. Yeah, I know.
They said it almost cost as much as Bright.
Shit.
And I don't understand why Bright cost that goddamn much.
Yeah.
Other than paying Will Smith probably $50 million just to show up in that bullshit.
We nice Will. I love Will too.
No, I don't. So we may not see this again, but if it comes back on, I'm gonna have to see this whole thing all over again.
Right.
Because it's just too much of his history to not Takeshi and everyone else that may show back up again. That you're gonna have to find. And there was just so much you had to learn with how the society is. You know what I mean? The society is so different the way they create it that you kind of have to find it in that way.
Right.
So if you don't watch this and pay attention it's going to be really difficult to follow the next series
Right.
in that way. So, yeah, we don't rate series, but I have to say this is a pretty good goddamn series.
Yeah, it was very good.
It was very good. So, you should watch this other than Cloverfield.
Okay. Yes, you can say that's right.
Just saying. So, anything else, babe?
Nah. That's about it, baby.
Urban Lifestyle Cafe. Catch us on bougieblackbrother.com, urbanlifestyle.cafe on not Twitter, on iTunes and Google Play, and Bougie Black Brother on most of the downloads, like Podbean and Tune In and a couple other different ones. Your downloads, you should be able to get it on the Bougie Black Brother. And follow us on IG and Twitter with Bougie Black Bro, and find BLK Woman, find Black Woman on those two social media outlets. But we'll see you next Tuesday for our next TV review, and I hope you enjoyed. Netflix is keep coming. As long as they keep coming, we're gonna keep coming, and we'll see you soon. Thank you very much. Bye.